This is Learning Coherence, Chapter 6, a series on the architecture underneath professional learning plans. This chapter, the Coherence Engine, where every component traces to every other. Chapter 6, the Coherence Engine. Every component I've described so far, impact vision, goals with CAS-AB dimensions, theories of action with because clauses, logic models with implementation stages, can exist as standalone sections in a plan, well-researched, individually coherent, structurally disconnected. This is the problem I kept running into. The goal section was solid. The theory of action was thoughtful. The evidence plan was detailed. But when you asked a simple structural question, does this KPI actually measure this goal? The answer required interpretive work. You had to read the goal, read the KPI, and decide whether they were connected. That connection lived in someone's head, not in the plan. The Coherence Engine makes every connection explicit. In learning coherence, every goal is linked to the theory of action hypothesis that serves it. Every theory of action is linked to the KPI that would tell you whether the because clause is operating. Every KPI is linked to its data source, the specific instrument, process, or system that produces the evidence. Every data source is mapped to a Gus key level, which tells you what kind of evidence it produces, and every goal is evaluated against Learning Forward's standards for professional learning. You can start at any component and trace the chain in either direction. Start at a goal, follow it to the hypothesis, follow the hypothesis to the KPI, follow the KPI to the data source. 4 clicks. Every step is an explicit auditable relationship. Or start at a KPI and trace backward. Which hypothesis does this measure? Which goal does that hypothesis serve? Which impact domain does that goal contribute to? That's not a report someone runs at the end of the planning process. It's a property of the architecture. The plan knows when it's structurally complete, and it knows when it isn't. If a goal doesn't have a linked KPI, the coherence check flags it. If a KPI doesn't have a named data source, it flags it. If a theory of action doesn't have a because clause, it flags it. Not as errors, as design questions. The plan isn't telling you you've done something wrong. It's telling you there's a gap in the structural chain that someone should examine before the plan moves forward. This is where Learning Forward's standards for professional learning do their most useful work. Learning Forward identifies 11 standards across 3 frames: conditions for success, processes for productive learning, and content for relevant learning. Each standard names something that research says matters for professional learning to produce results. In most planning processes, these standards exist as a checklist or an appendix. In learning coherence, each standard is mapped to specific plan components. The equity standard doesn't just get a checkbox, it maps to specific goals, specific activities, specific evidence. If the plan has an equity commitment in the preamble but no equity-focused goals or activities, the Coherence Engine services that gap. Not as an accusation, as a structural observation. You said equity matters, and the plan's architecture should reflect it. This architecture demands things that most planning processes aren't designed to provide, and I don't want to present it as a clean solution. A behavior goal requires observation infrastructure. Someone has to watch practice over time. A Gus key level, 4 evaluation requires systems that connect professional learning to classroom data. An if then because hypothesis requires a team willing to say, the mechanism was wrong, rather than we need more fidelity. These are expensive commitments, not just in budget, but in time, capacity, and institutional honesty. The Coherence Engine makes these costs visible. When the plan includes a behavior goal mapped to a level 4 KPI requiring classroom observation data, the plan is telling you, this is what you've committed to measuring, and here's what that measurement requires. If the infrastructure doesn't exist, that's information. It might mean the goal should be scoped differently for now. It might mean the school needs to invest in observation systems before the goal is evaluable. Those are judgment calls. The system makes the questions visible, so the judgment is informed rather than accidental. Snowden's Coup and Eve in framework makes a distinction I kept coming back to in this work. Between the complicated domain, where the relationship between cause and effect exists but requires expertise to understand, and the complex domain, where the relationship between cause and effect is only visible in retrospect. Some parts of professional learning planning are complicated. The logic model, the evidence design, the KPI selection. These benefit from expertise and from the structural discipline the Coherence Engine provides. But the actual work of professional learning, what happens when teachers engage with new ideas, experiment with practice, navigate resistance, build new habits, that's complex. The relationship between a coaching conversation and a shift in practice isn't predictable. It depends on trust, timing, readiness, context. The coherence engine can tell you whether the structures are in place for that shift to occur. It can't predict whether the shift will happen. This distinction prevents the coherence engine from becoming a false confidence machine. Full structural coherence doesn't guarantee results. It guarantees that the plan has done the design work that research says matters. It guarantees that the reasoning is visible and testable. It guarantees that when results don't materialize, there's enough structural information to learn from the failure rather than just repeating it. Over time, the coherence engine shifts what it does. Early on, it checks whether links exist. Later, once the plan has accumulated data, it checks whether the links that exist are producing the relationships the plan predicted. Because clauses start getting tested. Some get validated, some get challenged. The logic model starts reflecting what happened, not what was designed. That's the architecture, connected, traceable, honest about its limitations. Architecture that knows the difference between what it can guarantee and what it can't.